All right, I am. So just find a very comfortable position. And while you're settling into this position, you can take a nice, deep breath. And notice how good it feels to breathe in and breathe out. Noticing how all the sounds around you can be just simple reminders of your time to let go of routine activity so that you can focus inwardly. Perhaps envisioning that you are somewhere special. Perhaps on a beach, just enjoying yourself in a lounge chair, feeling the sensations of a wonderful sea breeze and the warmth of the sunshine on your skin. Just enjoying being in the elements and finding yourself becoming more and more deeply relaxed. Just allowing yourself to feel how peaceful it can be. Allowing yourself this little vacation from stress. And I would like for you to think back on a role model. Someone you really feel encompasses the confidence and the ability that you would really like to have yourself. Someone who works very well as a hypnotherapist, very freely and flexibly, and very creative in his use of metaphors and stories and also quite structured. So imagine this role model standing on a glowing yellow circle. And you can look at your role model standing there, seeing his confidence, seeing how he's so very comfortable in his own skin. This wonderful sense of integrity that he has in terms of his work, and how all these skills that once were novel have really just become second nature. And really seeing how calm and competent your role model appears, really just looking at him and noticing the stance of his body standing on that glowing yellow circle. Perhaps seeing expressions on his face of feeling very competent and engaged. And as you continue to gaze at your role model, hypnotherapist, imagine now that you can actually step onto that yellow circle, that glowing circle, and get a sense of being able to step into his body and to feel these qualities emanating within you. Noticing all these qualities, all these wonderful resources, allowing this sense of being able to use your intuition, this engagement, curiosity, perhaps noticing the sense of these various resources. Perhaps they each have their own color. Breathing in this state of intuitive competence, this enthusiasm, this engagement, as if it were a vital life force. Really enjoying the sensation of this coursing around through your body. Perhaps noticing that your body might actually be taking on more of these, the posture. And now, when you feel that you've sufficiently bathed yourself in this wonderful resource state, traveling back to yourself, perhaps back to the lounge chair on the beach where we initiated this session, relaxing. And once again, now considering yourself in the future, perhaps the very near distant future, could be a few days or weeks or even months, where you have begun to practice hypnosis much more regularly. And you find yourself really looking forward to the opportunity to use your skill set and to be intuitive and creative and to work with people in their unconscious in such a wonderful manner. So envision yourself now, perhaps just starting to envision yourself back in your office and seeing how confident you look, how enthusiastic and engaged you are, and how very calm you are at this sense that you do not need to prepare. You have the skills, you have the capacity to meet whatever comes your way, to creatively make those reaches as things arise. And really just seeing yourself now stepping into this yellow circle, stepping into your future self, which has been, stepping into yourself in your office, sitting in this wonderful glowing yellow circle and experiencing how that feels to be you, to have achieved this goal of having complete faith in your own abilities to provide good hypnotherapy to clients playfully, intuitively, enthusiastically, and to feel this wonderful drive pulling you forwards, this hunger to learn more, to do more, to play more. Deep sense of meaning that you find in helping people in this manner. And in just a moment, we are going to bring this to a comfortable close. But what you can bring back with you is this wonderful, glowing yellow circle, knowing that you can envision that and step into that at any time to experience all of these resources. This faith that you have in yourself. And so just beginning to reorient back to the room, you can just perhaps start wiggling fingers and toes and take a nice little stretch and just kind of awaken, feeling very present and yeah.
So first of all, that was a really enjoyable hypnosis session. Kind of got into it really well and felt really comfortable. I like effectively, structurally, you got the right components. So it was kind of disassociation, see the role model, association, step into them and kind of feel how they would feel. There's a few things that I would add to that at the point where you're associating into the resource state. It's useful to think of what's actually going on there. So whoever the role model is, it's not just that they feel a certain way, they're going to believe certain things. They're going to, you mentioned the competency side of things, but it's probably beliefs, skills, experience, perspective, values. So almost go through the whole Dilt's logical levels and think, right, okay, imagine how it would feel to have had all that experience, to feel at ease interacting with the client, whatever the attributes, and you had some of them. What I tend to do when I do it, and I'll reverse it very shortly, is to create an anchor. So obviously you've got the circle of excellence beneath you, which is a visual anchor, but you could almost say, notice how you're breathing when you're connected with this role model. Notice if there's any inner dialogue, and if there is, the tonality of that inner dialogue. And then perhaps, notice something, posture, and that any time in the future, if you can imagine that yellow circle of excellence and you're breathing this way and you're thinking that way, and there's a phrase that you say, you're going to activate this same feeling. So then you've got multiple anchors, if that makes sense, to re-access the resource state. Then, disassociation again, see yourself in the situation where you would want these skills. And I really felt I could see that in a hypnosis kind of situation, and then associating into it. And then all of the things that you've primed at the point where you've laid the anchors, you then want to trigger them all off, if that makes sense. So if you say, and I want you to breathe the same way that you breathed before, and I want you to see that glowing yellow in exactly the same color and intensity and brightness that you saw beneath you, and all that kind of stuff, so you're triggering it. Also, if the tonality, so you've got a good tonality for accessing a trance and a relaxation state, but if you're triggering a resource state, you almost want the tonality of your voice to reflect the resources. So if it is a sense of confidence and certainty, which is what I got a sense from there, you then want to have a little inflection change, and you can feel yourself confident, and you've got more of that downward kind of inflection. So it kind of, again, the tonality mirrors the state, because you've got a good state for relaxation. So it's almost kind of, and that would apply to any associated state. If you're anchoring a feeling of, pragmatic ambivalence, it's like, and you're looking at the situation and you don't care. Like your tonality mirrors the state, if that makes sense. But overall, I enjoyed that. That was a really good session.
Thank you so much. We've done very little work. In fact, I don't remember doing any work with anchoring and the APCO stuff.
Which is strange, because I mean that fundamentally, what I believe is happening when people are in destructive behaviors is that they're conditioned to kind of feel a certain way, think a certain way. And while they're in that state, they tend to do those things while they're in that state. So everyone's had that experience of, waking up and they're just in a lousy mood. Maybe they haven't eaten or slept properly. And while they're in that mood, they act differently than if they're not. So, we've got life experience that we're in a certain state, we do things differently. But the opposite is also true. When you're feeling like, if you've been on holiday and you've really enjoyed yourself, like even if something annoying happens, you don't get triggered in the same way, not because you're different, but because the state you're in is different, if that makes sense. So that's, it's Yapka, obviously very kind of academic approach, but, even other approaches, it's kind of like is almost kind of like associate a resource state into a context and then feel that you can access the state in the context where it becomes useful. And that's where Circle of Excellence, but a lot of anchoring is based on that principle. I'll stop the recording there.
Do you ever do anchoring, where people press their fingers together or do something, or is it more just really posture and tonality?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I do. So, for example, one of my favorite ones is sometimes I have a habit of taking myself a bit too seriously. So if I want to get in a playful mood, where the whole wiggle your toes come from, that's my anchor for being in a bit more of a silly state.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So because nobody can see that I'm doing that, but wiggling your toes, you can't wiggle your toes and feel serious at the same time. So ideally you want to find anchors that are kind of natural anchors for that thing. And the problem I have with the whole finger and thumb is that doesn't really do anything. So it's kind of like when you see professional sports people, like we've just had Wimbledon here this last week, and they get like a really important point. You don't see them doing this. You see them clenching their fists and making a whole expression. Yeah. That's a powerful anchor when every part of the body is doing something, and maybe they scream and they're like yes, and that's a powerful anchor. But like, confidence, it's like, well, that's incongruent by definition. Like it's not quite there. It's not quite the thing.
Good, very nice. Thank you.
Perfect. Right, I'll stop that.